Happy birthday, Superman, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Comic Hall. We are live on 4/19, 2018. You may not be watching it live, but you will watch it on replay, obviously, but that was when I filmed it live. Regardless, yesterday, April 18th, 2018, was a big day in the world of comics. It was the release of Action Comics 1000, the first American comic book to reach 1,000 issues. It was also Superman's 80th birthday, so I guess they timed it out perfectly. I'm sure there was some finagling to do to work that out, but definitely what it is. And of course, you know, this issue 1000 is setting up the new renaissance of Superman, supposedly. Kind of pissed off by a headline that was in a New York Post or something like that, where it was an interview with Brian Michael Bendis, who's taking over as the writer of both Superman books. And the headline was, "Can this man save Superman?" Well, Superman was not in any trouble, really, because Peter Tomasi, Patrick Gleason, Dan Jurgens were all doing a pretty good job working on Superman and have been working on Superman. And everyone else who's been working on Superman has been doing a pretty good job. Have been there some bumps? Sure, there have been. But come on, man, he's not the savior of everything because Brian Michael Bendis. So we'll see. That alone has kind of turned me off on his run, but we'll see. As I said, I'm not that type of person, petty person. So we'll see. So without further ado, the highlight, obviously, of this week's The Comic Hall will be this first issue that I'm going to show you, Action Comics 1000. This is just one of the multitude of covers that there are. Let me see if I get that shine out of here. Here we go. Basically, what they did was they did a cover for present day, which was drawn by Jim Lee with Superman sitting on top of the world with his new trunks and stuff like that. Then they did a different cover for every decade. So the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I don't know if they did the 2010s, since that might have been it. But, and everyone was done by a different artist. And it was supposed to be a homage to what was going on during that time. So I picked the 1950s version, drawn by Mike Allred, because it's the most busy one. And during that time, Superman was, you know, doing all these weird stories, and weird characters were created, and strange things that were going on. So pretty interesting cover on that. It's a $7.99 book, but it's 80 pages, 80 years, 80 pages. And multitude of writers and artists, all people who've worked on Superman before. This is the lineup we have. Dan Jurgens and Norm Ratmud did the first story. Dan Jurgens is probably, of all these people, is the one who's written Superman the most. Neverending, I'm sorry, that's just names out. Peter Tomasi, Patrick Gleason do a story in here. There's a pinup by John Romita Jr. Marv Wolfman with the great Kurt Swan on art, with Butch Guice inking, and Kurt Schaffenberger, another former Superman artist, you know, inking that as well. Jeff Johns and Richard Donner. Richard Donner, as you remember, wrote and directed the first two Superman movies with Christopher Reeve, and he came on board and wrote a couple arcs of action with Jeff Johns, art by Oliver Coipel. Scott Snyder writes a little story with Raphael Albuquerque, who was a guy he works with a lot. Tom King, who I love, is doing a great job on Batman. Wrote a script as well, with Clayman doing art. Clayman's also been on Batman recently as well. Louise Simonson and Jerry Ordway were members of the 80s into 90s group that wrote that then, and it was a good thing there. Paul Dini and Jose Luis Garcia Lopez and Kevin Nolan artwork. Pinup by Walt Simonson. Brad Metzler and John Cassaday did a story as well. Jorge Jimenez did a pinup. And finally, we have the first ever Superman script by Brian Michael Bendis, with pencils by Jim Lee and art by, or pencils by Jim Lee, inks by Scott Williams. The variant covers: 1930s, Steve Rude. The main cover, I'm sorry, Jim Lee and Scott Williams. 1930s was Steve Rude. 1940s was Michael Cho. 1950s was Dave Gibbons, colored by Angus McKee. I'm sorry, this is the 1960s version. 1960s, Mike Allred. 1970s, Jim Steranko. 1980s, Joshua Middleton. 1990s, Dan Jurgens. 2000 Lee Barrimo. So just give you a little taste of some of the stories. There's Dan Jurgens' story. Not sure who this is. Is this Dan Jurgens also? Yeah, it's Dan Jurgens, yeah. This is Patrick Gleason and his like there. Doing a different art style for everything. Pretty interesting. There's the pinup. I'm not going to show you that one. This is the Marv Wolfman, Kurt Swan artwork. 1950s type of go-go dancers. I gotcha. This one was the Jeff Johns and Richard Donner one with Oliver Coipel. Scott Snyder and Raphael Albuquerque. Tom King, Clay Mann. Louise Simonson, Jerry Ordway. Paul Dini, Jose Garcia Lopez, Kevin Nolan. Another pinup. Ooh, Walt's pinup's very cool looking. This is Metzler and Cassiday's version of it. And here's Bendis's first story with Superman. So we'll see what happens, but this is definitely well worth going to and getting one of the variant covers or all of them. The Dave Gibbons one was excellent. I almost bought that one, but I said I think this one was so busy, I decided to go with this one. But they're all pretty good. It's a homage to Superman. You don't need to have read any of other stuff. It's just sort of who Superman is, and it's well worth it. Probably if you must go to pick, not if you must, go to your comic book store and pick up a copy of this today. It will be well worth it, and maybe it'll get you hooked on the Brian Michael Bendis one. Speaking of regular Superman, I think this is the farewell issue by Peter Tomasi and Patrick Gleason, which is a shame because I really enjoyed their arc. These last 45 issues or so, and was kind of annoyed when they said Bendis was going to take over, but what can you do, right? So we'll see what happens. So they revealed the lineup for Brian Michael Bendis is doing a 6-issue weekly limited series beginning on May 30th. The first issue is drawn by Ivan Reyes, second is drawn by Shaner, I forget what his first name is. Ryan Sook is the third one, Kevin McGuire is the fourth one, Adam Hughes is the fifth one, and Jason Falbach is the fifth one. So you got a good group on there. So we'll see how excited I am. I'm not that excited. I'm more excited to read that last issue of Tomasi and Gleason's story. Speaking of really good stuff going on, Batman number 45 is up and running right now, the newest issue of that. Tom King with Tony Daniel artwork. It's kind of a weird storyline. I have to read it closely because it seems to me that Booster Gold is a little out of character here. But I'll have to read the story to find out for sure if I'm wrong about that, but we'll see. So interesting take on some things. So we'll see about that as well. Peter Tomasi also writes Super Sons, which I really, really enjoyed. This one's going to be ending soon too. Not yet. There's a couple of wrap-up issues I need to do on this one. Super Sons number 15. It's written by Peter Tomasi with artwork by Carlo Barberi and inks by Art Thibert. So it's going to be wrapping up the Super Sons saga as well right here. So I enjoyed the Super Sons saga, and hopefully it'll continue in some form somewhere. Also from Tom King this week, we have Mr. Miracle number 8, continuing the kind of bizarre miniseries going on. It's 12 issues, so hopefully we're going to be able to find out soon what's going on with that. But Tom King's a writer. Mitch Gerards is the writer-artist, or the artist on it, and the inker as well. All 9-panel. Every page is a 9-panel page, so it takes a little time to read, but it's a it's an intense story, and it's got some stuff going on. We'll find out. I think everyone has their own opinion of what's going on. I have my own opinion on it, and we'll see if who's right and who's wrong. Brave and Bold, number 3, continues the miniseries with Batman and Wonder Woman taking on in a future, in a fantasy Lord of the Rings-esque world. Liam Sharp is the writer-artist on that one. The artwork is fantastic, and well, the story's been pretty good so far. So it's a different take on things, and not something you expect to really see Batman in a fantasy world, but at least it was something different. Batwoman number 14. As you can see, Superman's been on a bunch of covers. A lot of the variant covers have Superman on the cover this week. I like this one because the other Batwoman covers actually, in my opinion, was not really that good. Written by Marguerite Bennett with art by Fernando Blanco. So we'll see how the storyline continues. I've loved Marguerite Bennett, but Batwoman's been kind of a little rough for me lately, but we'll see. It's on the bubble right now for me. Harley Quinn number 42. This was the last issue, so I had to pick it up because I wasn't going to. It was like, hey, it's on the last issue, so that was on the shelf, so I figured I'd pick this up. So it was Harley Quinn number 42. Frank Thierry, Morissette is the artist, and so it's like a take on the Mad Max stories and Old Man Logan type stories, and there's lots of homages to different things in here. Just looking at stuff, so the artwork looks pretty. So Green Lanterns number 45. Tim Seeley and Ronan Cliquet, who I found out was female. I wasn't aware that she was female, but hey, it's Ronan Cliquet, and she's female. So Green Lanterns has been a pretty good story. Haven't really gotten to Seeley's run all that much yet, so we'll see. But the previous stories were pretty good. Finally, this miniseries finally over. I can finally say the end. Dead Man number 6. However, it did say to be continued in Batman Demigod's War, which I'm probably not going to buy. Neil Adams writes and directs this, or writes and draws this. It does include all the supernatural characters, but the story was just awful, and it was unreadable. The artwork is kind of scratchy to me. So we'll see. I highly doubt I'll get up the sequel to it, but I had to get that because I love Dead Man's one of my favorite characters. We wrap up DC with a can't think of the name right now, but another spine book. This is Kurt Busiek's Batman Creature of the Night with art by John Paul Leon. This is the story similar to Batman's or Superman's Secret Identity, where it takes place in an alternate reality where the comics exist. And there are certain characters who have similarities to the superheroes, the Supermans and Batmans, and something happens that allows them to sort of live their life like they're heroes. So always been interesting. I haven't read this yet, so we'll see. I love Secret Identity, and just from what I've been looking at that lately, it really hasn't grabbed me as much as Secret Identity did, but we'll see. I haven't read it yet, so it's probably one of those things we have to read to find out. From Young Animal, we have Cave Carson has an Interstellar Eye number 2. Written by John Rivera with art by Michael Avon Oeming. So I buy it for the Oeming artwork and the bizarre stories. I haven't seen Wild Dog in this one yet, so we'll see. That's it for DC. Marvel has got 2 books out. This is the big Marvel book, Amazing Spider-Man number 799, which continues Dan Slott's final story arc. All the issues have been selling out like crazy. It's written by Dan Slott with art by Stuart Immerman with inks by Wade von Grawbadger. Next, a couple weeks, it'll be issue 800. So much like how Superman's got Action Comics 1000, this one has Behold the Intergalactic Empire of Black Panther. That could be interesting. They will be having a big issue as well with issue 800. But this storyline supposedly has all kinds of crazy stuff happening. And we will see what happens. But the artwork is pretty, and the storyline, I guess, is interesting. Haven't read it yet, so we'll see. But it's leading to 800, and then 801 is Stan Slott's last issue, and then we get our new creative team, which I'm not really excited about. So we'll see if I can keep reading. But it's Spider-Man, my first comic I ever got, and got me into comic books. Speaking of Spider-Man, Renew Your Vows number 18 is out this week. Again, alternate reality where Spider-Man and Mary Jane are still married, and they have a child, and all of them are web slingers. Jody Houser's a writer, artist Nathan Stockman. I mean, Mary Jane has the Venom costume, and their daughter has Spider-Man powers because her dad is Spider-Man, and they're all still working together and stuff as well. So, interesting take on things. That's it from Marvel. From Independence, this I didn't know what this was. It was from Aftershock, so I hadn't seen anything about it. And I was like, it's Aftershock. They've got a pretty good stories. And I read the description. I was like, okay, I got to get this. It's Her Infernal Descent, number 1. It's written by Lonnie Nadler and Zach Thompson, and Kyle Charles is the artist. Now, the reason why I bring this up is what's interesting about this story is it's about an older woman who's lost her family, and she's all alone. And she decides to descend the 9 rings of hell to find out what's going on with her family. I guess apparently they were in hell. So it's basically an exploration of hell, going through the 9 rings of hell that was in Dante's Inferno, or 10, whatever it was, that was in Dante's Inferno. So we're going to get a take of one person's opinion of what the different layers of hell is about. So that's actually a really interesting premise, a really interesting book, and Aftershock always does good stuff. So bravo on that. I'm going to read that. It should be really exciting. This one caught me by surprise also. I wasn't expecting this as well, but I took a look at the artwork, and I thought, this is actually pretty cool. Skyward number 1. It was written by Joe Henderson with art by Lee Garbett. It's about a little girl who has powers where she can control gravity, and then she grows up to be a teenager, and she's still using her powers. Actually, 20-year-old, so she's using her powers for good or evil, or her job, or whatever. And it's a post-apocalyptic world type thing. So artwork looks nice, story sounds interesting. So take that into consideration. Next, we have a werewolf double feature, Moonshine number 9 by Brian Azzarello and Edward Riso. Werewolves and mobsters. It's like I know about this during the 1930s and Prohibition, 1920s and Prohibition. So these two make some good stuff together. And this is no different than that. Also, we have Jughead the Hunger number 5, continuing the horror book where Jughead has been bitten by a werewolf and is a werewolf. It's written by Frank Chiari with art by Pat and Tim Kennedy and Joe Esma. And we actually get an appearance by Vampironica, who has her own book from a few weeks ago on this show as well. Next up, we have Kick-Ass number 3, written by Mark Millar with art by John Romita Jr., kind of a reboot of it with a female Kick-Ass and vicious bad guys and stuff like that. So that's probably about to happen. So we shall see. Rough Riders Ride or Die number 3 is done in the style of the old Tales from the Crypt cover. It's kind of pretty cool. It's written by Adam Glass with art by Patrick Olaf. Basically, it's the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but in America. That the team consists of Theodore Roosevelt, Annie Oakley, Thomas Edison, Jack Johnson, Harry Houdini, and Monk Eastman. And Tesla's involved in there a little bit as well. And some other things as well. So, pretty good series. Also from Aftershock, so you can't go wrong with that. Finally, we have Matahari number 3. Yep, this one will be wrapping up soon. Written by Emma Beebe with art by Ariella Cristantina. So if you want to learn a little bit about history, Matahari is the place to go. So there's that. And that is it. So to recap what you need to do is when you go to your local comic book store, you need to pick up Action Comics number 1000. Go to your local comic book store this weekend. Pick up a copy of Action Comics 1000. You will not regret it. Get any of the covers, all the covers, one of the covers. It's only going to set you back $8, but it's going to be worth it. It's the 80th anniversary of Superman, all these great stories, and leads into the Brian Michael Bendis era of Superman. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, definitely check it out. I might actually go back this weekend and maybe catch up another one or two of the covers. We'll see. That Rude one just was amazing. So I might go back and buy some of those. We'll see. But other than that, that's it. So hey, I got my combo call out on a Thursday instead of a Saturday. So hey, huzzah for that. So once again, go to your comic book store, pick up Action Comics 1000, or any of the books I showed you. Or as I said, I don't collect every single book. There's probably thousands of different ones out there that are out this week that I'm not interested in that you might be interested in. Or just go to your comic store just to see what's the whole big deal about it is. Free Comic Book Day is coming up in a couple of weeks. Again, that's where you get free comics on Saturday, May 6th, I believe. You get free comics. A lot of places are going to have creators. I found out the creator list at my store. It's going to be their first free comic book day at their new business, which is bigger. And they got a ton of guests. They got about 6 to 10 guests. They're going to serve food and drink as well. So it should be quite an experience. I will definitely be going. And you should too. So if you want to get involved with Action Comics 1000 or look forward to Free Comic Book Day, which is in a couple of weeks, go to your search engine, type in Comic Shop Locator Service, or CSLS. When the search engine comes up and you see the Comic Shop Locator Service, you click on the website, go to the website, type in your zip code. When you get to the website, it'll be a little box there. It says over there on the right-hand side. Type in your zip code and click enter, and it'll give you a list of every single comic book store within a 20-mile radius of your house, including links to their website so you can get their hours and see what it looks like and stuff like that, and so on and so forth like that. Next week is Avengers Infinity War week. The culmination of the MCU begins with Infinity War, which comes out next Friday. So hopefully I will be able to do a Thursday comic call again and get you guys so stoked for Avengers Infinity War. And then the week after that is Free Comic Book Day weekend. So the next couple weekends are going to be pretty big in the comic book world, and that sort of dissipates for a while till San Diego rolls around. So until then, keep reading comics. Go to your comic book store. If you don't know where it is, go to your search engine, type in Comic Shop Locator Service. When the list comes up, click on Comic Shop Locator Service, go to the website, click the zip code, type your zip code, and find the comic book stores in your area and get Action Comics 1000 or anything else that catches your fancy. All right, y'all have a good one. And next week, Avengers Infinity War, followed by Free Comic Book Day the week after. Happy birthday, Superman. 80 years.